So here we are on December 31st, 2016 with our grandmother, Miss Carmel Gottlieb.
Miss
Carmel Gottlieb.
Miss Carmel Plotkin.
Gottlieb.
Plotkin was my maiden name.
And now we will get right down to business. So this video is going to be made for the future after today, and it's going to be great. So let's get down to it, shall we? Oh, by the way, I'm Eli Goldstein. This is my older brother, Jonathan Goldstein.
I'm Jonathan Goldstein.
I'm currently 16 years old.
And I just turned 19.
Wow. I can't believe it.
And Grandma, how old are you?
86, going on 87 in a month and a half. In 5 weeks, approximately.
Alright, so now let's get down to it. Where were you born?
In Brooklyn, New York.
And what was it like growing up? Especially in the Depression. That must have been tough.
Well, I didn't know any better. This is what it was. We didn't have much. My father was a house painter, and he couldn't get work. And he refused to go on welfare. He said, I'll dig ditches before I take anything for nothing. And they managed. And my older sister, Aunt Martha, had to go to work. She couldn't go to college because they needed the money. So I think she worked in a bakery. This is what I was told. She was 18 years older than me. And I was also very sick as an infant. When I was 6 months old, I got the whooping cough. And Grandma said whatever was going around, I would get. And she said someone probably coughed near me, and I got sick, and I wound up in the hospital. They didn't expect me to live. So they gave me blood transfusions in both arms, and I have scars there that aren't very big now because I grew into them. But when I was a little girl and I had those scars, I didn't know what it was from. I thought everyone had marks there. And then, as I got older, Grandma told me, well, she was my mother, but she was your great-grandma. And
Mom, want to shut up?
that's on the video.
Yeah, now that's on the video.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And Eli, your name for that woman.
Elsie.
Yeah, she was a very sick woman. She gave birth to 5 children. The first one, Aunt Martha, was born in Russia, and the second one was born in this country, and that was her first child here. Unfortunately, she passed away when I never saw her because I was the last one, but I saw pictures of her. She was 2 years old. It seemed something hot from the stove fell on her, and I guess she went into shock, and ultimately she died. And that's why I get nervous when anyone goes near the stove. Don't go near there,
Well, let's go back to your family. Just
Yeah.
tell me everyone who was in your immediate family when you were younger.
Who was my immediate
So what were their names?
Well, Aunt Martha.
Mm-hmm.
And Aunt Nina, who was 10 years my senior, and Uncle Norman. Well, his real name is Noah. Uncle Noah. And he was 5 years older than me, and he was always beating me up. I'd like to, when we would go to the movies, and in those days you went to a movie for 10 cents. Maybe 11 cents. You saw a double feature, a comedy, the newsreel. You could sit there all day. And then on the way home, I like to look at things. And Uncle Norman would get annoyed with me, and he'd start yelling at me, drag me away. And the funny thing is, at this point, we lived in an apartment building on the 4th floor, and we didn't have an elevator. And there was a park. It wasn't near where we lived, this particular park. It was near where I went to junior high school eventually, because that's where we moved, to that area, when we bought a house. But Grandma said, don't go there. But Uncle Noah and I didn't listen. And we went to this park. And we were gone a long time, and I guess my mother was worried. And when we came upstairs, and he says to me, you go in first. And why did he make me go in first? Because she hit harder with the first smack. You would get, not in the face, on your bottom. You would get a... and then he came in. But she was really disciplinarian. Not my father. He only hit me once, and I never forgot it. My mother and father were having some sort of an argument, and I guess I butt in and I said something. My father was angry, so my glasses went flying. Well, that's the only time he ever lifted a hand to me. But my mother, but I was very close to her. And we lived in the apartments until I was about 10 and a half years old. And then Grandpa bought a house, a 2-family house, which is near that park that I liked. And we had the downstairs apartment, and he was very handy, being a house painter. And he did a lot of things himself with building and everything. And I was in the 5th grade, and the public school at that time, the grade school, was right on our corner. So I went to that school, and then from there I went on to middle school. We called it junior high. It was 7, 8, and 9. And then I went into high school. And then when I finished high school, I went to work. But then I went to college at night. I went for about 2 years, and then I said, enough of this, and I didn't finish. But
you learned some valuable skills, right?
Huh?
You learned some valuable skills, right?
Well, yeah, I did, because I took accounting, and I was very good in bookkeeping. I did very well. Well, you don't have regents. We called them regents that you had to take, and I did very well.
It was like exams.
Stenography was another thing I didn't do too good at. But when I got my first job, well, that was bookkeeping. He didn't dictate. But then my second job, when I left there, was the job that I had when I got married. And instead of dictating, I knew stenography, but I wasn't that good at it. The brain wasn't absorbing it. They would use it, they called it a dictaphone. And you put on the headphones, and I'd come in the morning, the machine was on my desk, and I would listen to what I had to do. And if it was letters, or if they were lawyers, letters or legal documents, I would type them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I worked there for 15 years, and then I met your grandfather.
Well, let's get on to our next question.
Yeah. But, no, what?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, what did you like to do for fun? Aside from going to the movies, of course, which you loved.
Well, when I was about 13 years old, you know, Aunt Martha got married when I was about 3.5 or 4 years old. I think it was going on 4. And Uncle Abe was like a father to me, and he had a candy business that with his, you knew about that, I think, with his brothers and his father. And they used to have these little boxes of candy for a penny. And if you saved 10 of the coupons or tickets that were in there and you sent it away, you got a prize. So I would take one ticket from his candy and give it to him, give me the prize. And Aunt Martha was really like a mother to me. And she had her first child. Unfortunately, that child died. So I was really an aunt when I was 7 years old. But then 2 years later, Robert was born. And I adored him. And that we still lived in the apartment. I was 9 years old, and she lived in an apartment like a block and a half away, and I would go over there, you know, I'd play with him. He cried when I went home. Because I was small, you know, and they liked small. He related to me. And then when we bought the house, she lived upstairs. And I was getting older. And she liked to go out. I became the official babysitter. And she would she'd go out every night. She gave me $2 a week. It was like an allowance. So one day, Uncle Norman says to me, you know what? There's the park that I told you about, it's called Cethlo Park, and they used to flood the basketball. It was one of the courts, and it had to be very cold out. And you'd go ice skating. He had ice skates, I didn't. So I said, I'll ask Aunt Martha. I'll ask Martha to give me in advance. A pair of skates cost $8. But that was a lot of money then. That's how I got my first pair of skates. And I didn't buy figure skates. I got regular skates, and it had a built-in ankle support. I don't know if they still make it like that. And I remember, I think it was DeVegas. I don't think they're in business anymore. And he taught me how to skate. But it had to be like 0 degrees out. And we would go at night and they played music. It was nice. It was like the olden days. And then I skated then. But then when I went to work and I was 18, this girl, Rita DiTullio from the Bronx, came to work for us. I often wonder what happened to her, because I know she got married and she lived in Illinois. But she said, you know, let's go ice skating. And where did we go? Madison Square Garden. I think they still have a skating rink indoors, but this was it really wasn't the old Madison Square Garden, because I think there was one before that, but this was on 49th Street and 8th Avenue. And I went. I rented skates. And I liked it. And right after that I went and I bought a pair of ice skates, figure skates. And I would go every Tuesday night. And at 10 o'clock they would reverse the skating. And for some reason I couldn't skate that way. I couldn't, you know, when you go around this way, this way, you put your right foot in front. Well, when you went the other way, you had to put your left foot in. My left foot wouldn't go. So I went home. And that's when you weren't afraid to go on the subway by yourself. This was 10 o'clock at night. I would go to the subway station and I would take a taxi for a quarter to get home, just to know that I got home safely. And then the following year, this friend, Rita, she had left us and she had gone to Europe. And when she came back, I would meet her and she said, let's go to Rockefeller Center. And I skated there for a whole season. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And she met her husband. And he was a communist for the FBI. It was and nobody knew really.
Mm-hmm.
That I was told this in secrecy. And she wound up marrying him. He was from Illinois, and that's where she moved, to a farm.
Well, now that we're on the topic of ice skating,
Alright. I actually have to get going because I'm meeting my friends in the city.
Yes.
So
have a Happy New Year.
Happy New
and
Year
a
to
healthy
you.
New Year. And whatever you wish, I wish for you. Okay.
you as well.
okay. Tell your friends I say hi. So now
Yeah.
that we're on the topic
Yeah,
of
so
ice skating, how'd you meet your grandpa?
I could. Then Rita got married, and I didn't have an ice skating partner anymore, so I stopped going. Because I really didn't like to go by myself. And then, I guess when I was about 30 or 31, an English girl came to work in the office. She had just come here with her family, her mother and father. They were products of the Second World War. They had gone through it. Because, well, this was 1960, 61. Anyway, I became very friendly with her. And all of a sudden she said something about going skating. I said, I'd love
Do you
to.
have money?
And that's where your grandfather came into the picture. He saw me there. And he was very curious, but he wouldn't come over to me because I skated pretty nicely. But the next day my train got stuck. I had to walk through you could walk through the trains at that time. They were connected, no doors. You went as far as you could go. And he looks up and he sees me. And he couldn't believe it. He says, weren't you at the skating rink last night? I said, yes. Gets off the same station as me. Changes trains with me. So why is he wrong? His store was on the same street. And that's how we met. So it was Bichette. But what else do you want to know about my childhood? You want to know?
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah,
Let's see, what's your house look like?
I never took you to see it in Brooklyn. Doesn't look like that anymore. I went to see it a couple of years ago. I was with Mark and Uncle Norman. We were driving Uncle Norman home from, had been in either Staten Island or New Jersey, I don't even remember. And I said, Mark, let's take a detour. I want to go down memory lane. Well, they refaced it. It was stucco. It was a two-family house attached to another two-family house. And Aunt Martha lived up to Grandpa. And it was the three of us, 3 children were there. Aunt Nina and I slept in the sun parlor, which was in front of the house. It was cold. And I would go to sleep early. And Aunt Nina said, I used to put my feet on your back to warm up when I got to bed.
Because you two shared a bed.
It was a small bed. It wasn't a full size. It was a 3/4 bed. And then when Aunt Nina got married and moved to Old Uncle Milt was in the furniture business. So we bought a hideaway bed, they called it then. You know, like they have the Castro beds. So we bought, like Uncle David has a bed like that in his apartment.
I wouldn't know, I never go there.
It was open once. He had a friend sleep over once. Must be all moldy, who knows? Yeah. But, and I missed her when she left. I was very close to Aunt Nina. She was a friend,
Yeah.
not only a sister. And then when I met Marilyn for the first time, she was 2 months old. I surprised her. I took the train. What are you looking?
There seems to be an argument between your daughter and your grandson.
Yeah, why don't you just have nobody then?
Continue.
Sorry. He's so
When
selfish.
Marilyn was 2 months old, it was Memorial Day weekend, and I had never seen her. So I said to Grandma and Grandpa, I said, you know what? I want to go visit them. And I hadn't flown yet. I took the train at Grand Central Station, and I went overnight. I sat up all night. It's hard to sleep on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did it. And I went to, I went into Cleveland, and my father said, when you get there, go over to the Greyhound bus line and get a ticket to Lorraine, Ohio. And I did that. I was 18 years old. It was very easy, just to do these things. You didn't mind, really. And that's what I did. And I met Marilyn. And I said, where are they going to go with the little baby? They're not going anyplace. So I was singing a song to Marilyn, and she was smiling, and I started to cry, saying, Sister, why are you crying? I said, she's my first niece, and I can't see her grow up. And we bonded. She's like a daughter to me. I love her. And I used to go there every Thanksgiving. But then I flew, and it would snow. And as soon as it started to snow, they said, sure, and Carmel's coming.
Well, you just told me about your friends in the family, as in Aunt Nina, and Aunt Martha was kind of your mother.
Yeah, she was like a mother to me.
Did you have any friends growing up at school, in
You
the neighborhood?
I found it very difficult to make friends. I was shy. But at the first school I went to, I had a couple of friends, but I was a quiet kid. And then I made friends I made friends when we moved to the block, to the new house. There was a little girl next door. And in fact, from that group, we all went to junior high school together. One of them lives in Uncle David's building, and I see her periodically. And we formed a club, and we called it the Nil Corps. You know what that is? Brooklyn spelled backwards. And we paid dues, and we got varsity jackets with a big N, I think. I think they were green and white. I'm not sure. I forgot about it. But a couple of weeks ago, Uncle David and I went into on 73rd Avenue, where they have the sushi place. Mm-hmm. Well, on the corner going further east is a little, like a coffee shop. They call it a diner, the Bell Diner. We went there for dinner. And I see this woman walking in. And then I realize it's my friend Rose. And she and her husband came in and they sat down with us and we all ate together and it was a lot of fun reminiscing. And she said, you know, how many people do you know that still have friends from way back? There's this one girl, Natalie, that I met when I met Rose in junior high, but she said she knows Natalie from the first grade. And she's also going to be 87. In fact, Natalie's birthday, I think, is January 2nd. She was the first birthday. And the one that lived on my street, Shirley, she's going to be 87 January. I know all their birthdays. She'll be 87 January 27th. But I didn't like her.
Oh.
No. You know, her mother, they were not nice people. Her mother used to call me, there was a year, I was tall for my age, so she called me a langa lush. That means a long noodle. So she said a langa lush. And I was upset, and I came back, and I told my mother. She says, you know what? Call her daughter, who was short, a farfalla. You know what matzah farfalla looks like? Call her a farfalla. So, of course, she got insulted. But, no, I didn't like her. She was not a nice person as far as I'm concerned. But there were other people in the group, too. But, well, one moved to Canada, and they're gone, you know.
Everyone moves away.
Yeah. And so those were my friends. But after that, I always had friends. Now, these people got married. And I was 18 already, and I was working. But I had my friend still from high school, and I still hear from her once in a while. I don't think she's doing so good. Her husband's not doing. They live in New Jersey, so I really don't see her. That was my one high school friend. When she got married, I had to make new friends. And I was going to college at night. And I was asked to join a house plan, which is like a sorority, but it was, do they still have house plans? I don't know. And it was a group where you went to parties with boys and, you know, and boys and girls, and that's how you met people. And I had that group of friends. And then I had from my office. So I always had somebody after. It was just when I was growing up as a kid. But once I got older, I guess I came out of my shell a little bit.
I can't imagine you in a shell.
Huh?
I can't imagine you in a shell. You're a social butterfly.
Not really. No, I was really a quiet kid.
Well, that's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, then this question may have already been answered, but did you have a boyfriend ever? Did you have any romantic times?
Yeah, I did. When I was about 20, I had a boyfriend, and I often wonder what happened to him. And
What's his name?
Bernie.
Last name?
No, I'm not giving last names.
Bernie. It's a Bernard.
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Nice man.
I met him on the train also.
Maybe I'll go to the train to meet some girls.
You know, if it's meant to be, you will meet. I'm used to have plenty of girls in your classes. Is there anybody that you like?
This is about you, not me.
Oh.
Let's see, next one. Tell me, from your mind, what's every single job, aside from babysitting, because, like, it's a job, but you already touched on it, so every single professional job that you've had in your life?
Well, only two, really.
What were they?
The first one I worked for, it was my first job. Oh, no, I worked in the summers When I was 16, I started working for, it was a chain store. I don't know if they're still in business. Learners? I don't think so. But I worked in the office. They had stores all over the country.
What kind of store was it? Toy store?
Women's
or
stuff.
Women's clothing?
Yeah. And I forgot what I did already. It was sort of like bookkeeping.
Mm.
Yeah. But it was a summer job.
You
And I
made some
made
money.
a friend there who happened to be a twin. Yeah. Phyllis Moldavsky or something like that was her name. She lived in Williamsburg. And at that time, Williamsburg was a Jewish neighborhood. And then ultimately it changed and became bad. But now it's getting gentrified.
Oh, really?
Oh, Williamsburg, sure.
Yeah.
It's expensive there now.
Alrighty.
And then I used to go where, while I was working. Oh, you want to know about my jobs?
Yeah.
So that was really like my first professional job at the age of 16. I worked for a couple of summers, and then one Christmas they called. We didn't have a telephone. Aunt Martha had the telephone upstairs. It was expensive, so we hadn't gotten it. And there was a waiting list because of the war. I was 11 years old when the Second World War started in 1941. Yeah, I was going on 12. And Uncle Norman enlisted. When did he enlist? In 1943.
How old was he then?
He was... In 1943, he was 18. Yeah.
Young buck.
Yeah, so he enlisted. And the funny thing was, I used to come home from junior high for lunch. You could walk. And as I'm walking home, I was like from Union Turnpike, and I was almost to my house, maybe the third house from here. And I got a feeling. I said, my brother is home. And I ran the rest of the way. He had come in on a leave, and he was there.
That's been nice.
It was a weird feeling, getting that. And, all right, anyway, about my jobs. So, and then my first job out of school was for a curtain corporation. And where was it? It was like a factory district at the time. It's called Soho now. You've heard of that?
I think so.
Yeah. So I worked there for about 8 months. And when the boss didn't want to give me an increase, and when he did give me an increase and I didn't think was enough, I went and told him I was leaving. But I gave him 2 weeks' notice. When the 2 weeks were up, he didn't think I was going to leave. But I had made up my mind, and he begged me to stay. You're like my wife in the business. So I said, I hope he gives his wife more money than he's giving me. Yeah, anyway. So then I got this job working for the lawyers. And the real estate one is the one that I really worked for. He rented apartments, and I had to do some work for the lawyers. So then eventually I became the office manager and had to make sure that things were done properly and got out on time and whatever. And
So a lot more bookkeeping and organizing.
well, it was bookkeeping, it was typing, telephone calls, taking care of tenants. And then I met your grandfather. And I stopped working when we got married. But my boss, I became pregnant right away. I was very fortunate. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here. And what did I want to say? I lost my train of thought.
After you stopped
My
working.
boss, my former boss, he was like a father to me. He was wonderful, Mr. Fletcher. He would send work. I had a typewriter at home. Grandpa bought me a typewriter so I could type bills for him, and I had to issue summonses, so he would send work home. And so I did that, and then when I couldn't go into work anymore, I wasn't allowed to travel in the beginning. And the rest is history. I stayed home. I had my babies, and it was a full-time job, but I enjoyed it. It was hard, like, remember in the synagogue when I saw that woman with the twins?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like your mother and Uncle David sitting in that. I couldn't believe it. The boy was a person, and the little girl's like this. I said, oh my God, this is deja vu. This is like Robin and David. And I told her, I had to talk to her the day before, when I was leaving the next day. I said, she said, you want to talk to me? So then we started sharing stories. And she said, it's hard work, but it is a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, let's get on to the next question.
Okay.
What was it? What do you remember about the Second World War? You know, were you ever scared? Was it ever just a tough time? What were your feelings about it? Do you think it was a war worth fighting?
I was too young to give it that much thought.
Well, what do you remember about it? Like, you know, was there any like news on TV or the radio rather?
Well, I remember when they dropped the atom bomb where I was. Aunt Martha used to take me to the country. She rented a summer place every year. And I took care of the kids. I was the official babysitter. But I missed my mother very, very much. But it was nice to get away out of the city. Yeah. Because the only time we went is when I was even younger. The first year, I don't even remember the first time we went. They went to a place, and what you did is, they called it in Yiddish a kuckelane. That means it was one big kitchen, and each one had two people had to share the refrigerator, two families, the refrigerator and the stove, and a big table. And we would go with my father's brothers and his wife and family. That was the first time we went. The second time we went, Aunt Martha went with us, and she already had Robert and Kenny. He was about a year old, Kenny. Yeah, when we went. And each one had their own. We slept in a big room with my mother and father. And I remember Uncle Norman was very mean to me. There was an electrical storm and lightning and all.
Yeah.
I was petrified.
And he made fun of you?
He wouldn't go get my mother. I was crying. I was so scared. To this day, I don't like it. I would crawl under the bed. Grandma yelled at him for treating me that way. But that was his personality.
Alright, let's see, next thing. What was it like raising your family? I know you lived in an apartment first and then you moved to this beautiful home. What was it like raising my mother and Uncle David? What was it like just to be here Like, and did you have any difficulties, struggles, or was it fun?
Well, I had a nurse. But I was in the hospital for about 10 days. And when we came home, I had a baby nurse. So she was a big help. And I was a quick learner, and they were good babies. Because you can get babies that cry a lot and are colicky, and it can be a living hell. My babies were not like that. They were pretty good. And I had them on a schedule, more or less, and I made sure that they were asleep when Grandpa would come home. He would play with them. He was a big help to me, believe it or not, in the mornings. I would go in to take a shower. This was after the nurse left. And he would get up and change their diapers from the whole night. You know what that is, how that smells. And he would play with them. So that was a big help. And, well, after the nurse left, I sat down on the bed and I cried. I was so scared. I was really frightened. But once I cried, I was fine. And the first week, well, I sent for my niece Eileen from Ohio, and she came to help me. And she was a big help. And Aunt Rose, God bless her, said, well, what's wrong with your niece? To Grandpa. First of all, she wasn't my blood relative, and I really didn't need her there. Wanda. But Aunt Rose was very jealous of my relationship with Aunt Nina.
Yeah.
Because she didn't have that kind of relationship with her sister. And she was basically a very jealous person when she saw these things. Anyway, I said...
You were lucky.
Huh?
You were lucky.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? Let her come. And she came. And I don't have that furniture anymore. But there used to be a place called Foamland. And it was, you could sleep on the sofas.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a big foyer. And I had the maid shorter so I could fit it on the wall. And it was like this. And there was this. In fact, you have the table. I don't know if you still have it downstairs. A big square table. You had it, Mom, you used to use it upstairs, but you don't need it anymore. Well, that table was in between, and if somebody slept over, there was an extra pillow that you put on it, and it became a bed. Both ways. So that's where the two girls slept. But Eileen said Wanda used to kick, and she wasn't happy with her there. That's the way it was. And so she said, when Eileen went home, I was alone for a couple of weeks. And I was doing all right, but then I stayed downstairs too long. And when I came up, they were both hungry. And I couldn't work fast enough. And I was getting agitated, so I banged on the crib, and my neighbor downstairs heard me. She says, what's going on up there? And then she yelled at me. She says, you need a mother's helper between 4 and 6. And she was right. And there was a young girl, a teenager, that lived the floor below her, the whole line. I was in 4A, Mary was in 3A, and Rosalie, the mother's helper, was in 2A. She gave me her phone number, and she would come up every day at 4 o'clock. And then the days got shorter, and Rosalie got sick. And I was coming up earlier. That was the whole problem. I stayed downstairs too long with them. I was in the house more. So I was more organized. And they were getting older. I really didn't need her anymore. And I just used her for babysitting once in a while. Because we didn't go out that much.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't schlep them, like they do today. They take the babies with them. Well, it's hard to take 2 babies with you.
As tough as it was to have 2 babies, how much of a blessing do you think it was to have twins?
It was a blessing. I thought it was a blessing. After we were both older, we weren't babies, and we had an instant family. So it was a blessing.
Do you think it's just better to be pregnant just once and have 2 kids?
Well,
That's
we
easier?
thought we would try again, but I was afraid I'd have another set of twins. It happens, don't laugh. And I said I couldn't handle that.
I don't blame you. You'd have to add, a 3rd floor to this house.
We would have had to buy, we couldn't stay in the apartment if I had even another child in the apartment would have been crowded. Because they had their own room. Luckily, I had the extra room.
Yeah.
I remember Grandpa's brother saying when we took the 4.5-room apartment, it was a junior 4, it wasn't a big one. How do you know she can have children? Maybe he can't have children, but I mean, how she can. They always pointed a finger, and I didn't like that.
Well, I think we're getting to the tail end of this, because now we're going to start getting to the deeper questions. So, what is one piece of advice you have for me or my children to take through life?
Do what you believe in. Live your life to the fullest. Be kind to people. Be kind to your children. Show them respect. And they in turn will show you respect.
All right. One deep question down. How would you like to be remembered? So, 500 years from now, people will still know the name Carmel Gottlieb. What do you want them to think of when they hear that name?
She was a nice person. She was good. She was kind. Well, remarks like that have come back to me. Someone I know who's coming down to Florida is going to room with this lady who happens to be the friend of someone that lives around here. And that lady called her friend and said, well, she said that she's a friend of Carmel's. So this lady, who I'm not really that friendly with, but I think very highly of her, says, oh, Carmel is a lovely person. So her friends must be nice also. So that made me feel good.
What is your happiest memory? Or pick one. You have plenty of happy memories. Of course, your children getting born, Jonathan and I getting born, your wedding. Something that wasn't, a milestone event. Something that was just happy. Or how about when we go to Florida? Does that make you happy? Being with your friends in the Kislak group?
Yeah, but
Or a time with your family?
spending time with my family. I had some nice vacations with your grandfather.
On cruises?
Yeah. We did. I haven't seen a lot, but I've seen more than some others have seen. I've seen more than if I would have stayed at home. Yeah. One of my nicest trips was when we took the cruise to Russia. And when we got off the ship in Russia, not that that was the place exactly where my parents lived, but I cried because I said, this is where the country that my parents came from. It wasn't anywhere near where they came from, I don't think. But, and I always enjoy going to see the show Fiddler on the Roof because I think of my mother and father. Because that's the way it was when they were there. They were on a farm. And one by one, the sisters, there were 3 sisters and 3 daughters. Oh, and a son. The son never came. He was killed in the Holocaust. But the 3 daughters came, and they each went, well, the 2 older ones came first. So one went to Cleveland, and one went to Providence, Rhode Island. So when my parents came, they started off, my father came first. And then he sent for Aunt Martha and my mother. About 2 years later. And they went to Cleveland. No, I'm sorry, they went to Providence first. And then from there they went to Cleveland. And Aunt Nina and Uncle Noah, were born in Cleveland. And then they decided they'd make a better living in New York.
That's
And I came along. So I'm the only New Yorker.
Yeah, the true New Yorker.
Yeah.
Can I have some coffee?
Coffee. I need a tissue.
Tissues.
They're in the kitchen.
Here, I'll get you some. Sit tight, we're not done with this
Or
yet.
the bathroom, either way.
Here's your tissue.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Now,
How come that's not on?
it's still on.
Huh?
The camera's still on, just the
Oh.
screen's on. So, talk about your connection to Judaism, to Israel, just in how strongly do you feel about all these things?
Well, there should definitely be in Israel because we need a place that should be safe for us. And there'll never be any peace. It would be good if they could make it 2 states and then each one should just live in peace.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what it is? Everyone wants a piece of the action. Everyone wants to be a chief. And they're not satisfied with it. There'll never be peace in the world because they're not satisfied with what they have.
And what about Judaism in America? And just the way you've raised your kids and,
Well,
going
you
to
can
temple.
tell the
and
way I
went to
raised
temple
my
today.
children. I gave them the values. I sent them to synagogue, to Hebrew school. Your mother went on to Hebrew high school, as did your uncle, under protest. And he quit just before the term was finished for the end. And the principal called me and pleaded with me. He said, please let him finish. I said, I can't. And that was the end of it. Now he's sorry. But your mother took to it very nicely. She really did. And in fact, when they went away to college, Uncle David doesn't have his own menorah. But I think you like the menorah that I gave her.
The gold one, right?
Huh?
The golden one, right?
I forgot what it looks
Yeah, I'm pretty
like already. She told me she wanted a menorah, so I went out and bought her one. I was thrilled. And I'll tell you one thing, a lot of the families I spoke to when it came to sending their children to college, they pleaded with them to join Hillel. I didn't have to say a word. Both of them joined on their own. And I was very pleased with that. So, and Mom said to me when she was going away, she says, what if there are no Jewish people there, Mom? There are plenty of Jewish people in Tufts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and look, I taught them the way I was brought up. Although my mother would have preferred if I kept kosher, you know, on the outside. I did until I turned about 11, when Aunt Martha started taking me away to the country. She introduced me to non-kosher, to Chinese food.
Mm.
I never had it before. I only ate kosher. Who ate out? You couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ate out, you went to
Deli,
they had
right?
like dairy restaurants. The meat restaurants were very expensive, but the few times that we did go out, it was a dairy restaurant, I think. But you ate home.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go out.
Well, did your mother have any, like, you know, special meals, like, you know, for Shabbos? Or...
God bless my mother. Certain things she made were very good. She would make a wonderful chicken soup. But then what you did with the chicken, what do you do with all that chicken? She would take the chicken and like put it in the oven to make it look like a roast chicken. But it was still soup chicken, and at the time, being a little kid, I didn't like soup chicken. And I was a very poor eater as a kid. And she would make a vegetable soup, and she put cooked celery in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, to this day, I cannot eat cooked celery.
I just don't eat celery.
Really? I love raw celery.
It's too much chewing. You burn more calories chewing it than you do eating.
You know what
Forget it.
it's good with, but I can't do that anymore.
Peanut butter.
Salt. Oh, peanut butter I could have. That's healthy for you. But I heard you could put peanut butter in it. Yeah, but so as far as her cooking went, and don't forget it was a depression.
Yeah.
So you had to stretch the. She used to make a pot roast, and you called it gedempte fleisch. I don't know what gedempte means, but it was a cheap cut, and that's what she would make. And when she could afford it, and if you could get it during the war, and made lamb chops, that I loved.
Is that your favorite?
But I love lamb chops. Yeah.
Well, now that we're on the topic of food, what's your favorite food? Favorite kind of food? Like Italian, Japanese, Chinese, American, Middle Eastern. You see, I know like Chinese. I mean, have all the sodium. It's all difficult, but just overall,
I can't say it's my favorite. Some of the things are good. I enjoyed my dinner last night.
I did too.
The chicken was good. That was Mom's idea
Honey
to
mustard.
make it that way because I wanted to make the bourbon chicken. She says it's too salty.
It is.
You have soy sauce, and I forgot. I didn't know. I didn't look it up. If I looked it up, I would have known. You know, I should give her that bourbon to take home that you made me buy. What was it, Jack Daniels?
How long ago was that?
I'll give it to Mom to take home. She makes bourbon chicken.
And that was at least 2 years ago when we just went into that liquor store, bought like this whole thing of Jack Daniels for
Yeah.
dinner. I
Oh
thought it was hilarious.
God, yeah. So what's my favorite food? When I was growing up, potato pancakes.
You love latkes?
Oh. Grandma used to say you could wake her up in the middle of the night and give her any kind of potatoes. I love potatoes. I like mashed potatoes.
Actually, this Thanksgiving I made a great thing of mashed potatoes. It was par of course, for the Bellins, well, and for us too, I guess. But it was really good made with soy milk.
You have to make it.
Yeah, for the turkey.
I mean, if you were serving it with meat, you couldn't. So how'd you make it?
With soy milk and earth balance.
Oh.
It was really good.
What'd you use for seasoning?
I don't know, like garlic powder, garlic itself.
You know what I bought? Mrs. Dash, no salt. It's onion and herbs. And I bought garlic and herbs. And I use that onion and herbs in my egg salad or salmon salad. It's delicious. It really is.
And now I'm not sure how to conclude this. Like, what's a final question for you? What? I asked you some deep questions before. I don't want to make you think that much. Just, if you could have any gifts, what would it be? Aside from that beautiful bracelet that you just got for your birthday. Show it to the camera. It's beautiful, isn't it?
I love it. You think they see it?
No.
Now, what was the question?
Any present you'd like.
Any present that I would like?
/ if you could go anywhere right now, where would it be?
I love to go into Manhattan to the Lincoln Center.
See the Christmas tree?
No. There happens to be a show there that I want to see, but I don't know if we'll be able to get tickets. And I have avoided going to the city because it's so crowded.
Oh, yeah.
But when I love going to the ballet. I enjoy spending time with my daughter and going to the ballet. And there's a very good group, Chinese dancers, that's going to be at Lincoln Center. And then I saw that in May they're coming back, but it's not to Lincoln Center, it's to some place in New Jersey. I want to see it at Lincoln Center. I don't know if we'll be able to get tickets. But I enjoy that. I enjoy a good show.
Well, I think that's a wrap. So, Grandma, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Can I watch?
It's gonna be a pretty long video, but if you got that kind of time, I suppose.
Well, let's just start it and see what it's like.
Sure. Well, we gotta end the video. Yeah, thanks for doing this with me. I think this is a very valuable thing.